Hello and welcome to my channel. In today's video we are going to be doing indie sleaze makeup from my memory. I did a little bit of it in my last video where I talked about like the fall fashion trends, but I wanted to actually make like more of an in-depth tutorial on, like, as somebody who lived it, as somebody who's there, how we did our makeup back then. A very in-depth, like, basic indie sleaze makeup look. So let's get into it. The general landscaping of makeup back in 2007 to 2009, like, of course you had people who were really into like heavier makeup and bronzer and heavy coverage, but on the like indie scene side of it, things were more like, colors were more saturated first of all, and people really played into their natural features. So even if you were dyeing your hair a different color, you still accentuated something about the natural hair on your head. So there was like a lot of like emo, kind of like very straight hair that was kind of boxy, or, you know, there wasn't a lot of, like, people had flaws back then and that was accentuated or celebrated, or it was considered normal to like look like a human being. For this makeup look, I also will say matte was mostly how we wore our makeup, and if we wanted to add shine, there was obviously products that we would use, like glitter based like eye colors, or even highlight was super big back then, but it was like different. It was more foiled, it was less what it is now. The first step is to cover our face. A lot of people like embrace their natural tone, so there wasn't a lot of tanning, there wasn't a lot, people were like just embracing their natural. I mean, I guess there's different stories to that. I guess if you're a bit preppier, you were definitely going to the tanning beds, but if you're more indie, you were not. You were kind of resigned to the fact that that's what you were, and you kind of just played around with what you had, versus like maybe the preppier kids who, I mean, even the preppy kids had a little bit of gothic tendencies, I think. But anyway, let's go into it. So I'm gonna go in with this Dior Forever Skin Perfect Skin Stick. It's gonna give me the coverage that I'm looking for. I don't really remember there being a ton of emphasis on covering imperfections on our face back then, honestly. I think obviously we wore a lot of foundation. Like, if you wanted to cover an imperfection, there was no YouTube channels, that there weren't really a lot of tutorials teaching people how to do makeup, so a lot of people were just like figuring it out. And one of the ways a lot of people figured it out was like they would just pile on more makeup. So like if you wanted to cover a blemish, you definitely had concealer, but I didn't learn how to do my concealer for like color correcting correctly until like 5 years ago. I think people do their makeup a lot better now just because there's more information and it's helpful. But back then, you were just sort of working with what you had, and I don't remember our makeup kits being like, personally being like overflowing with anything. You had like a going out palette, you had like your everyday palette, you had your blush, you had your foundation, you had, you know, everything fit in one bag back in the early aughts. I think a lot of people these days have a lot more product than we were used to having, because there's just so many choices. And I think Sephora became a bigger deal probably in like 2006, 2007. I specifically remember not knowing what Sephora was, having friends talk about it at dinner one night. We were we were at PF Chang's, which is very millennial coded. I feel like it's very of the time. But yeah, we like basically just were not as interested. And the first time that I went into Sephora, I was in Vegas for my 21st birthday and I just bought a bunch of Sephora products. Like, I had no idea. I thought that was the coolest thing ever. As you get older, you start to realize like there are actual brands that are there besides the Sephora brand. So it's kind of like, when did you discover Sephora? That was kind of the newer thing. A lot of people, like, I grew up wearing Mary Kay for the most part, and I didn't really get into drugstore until the pandemic, because I remember I bought Charlotte Tilbury lipstick and it was like $40 during the pandemic. I wanted to, like, I was in that like weird time where I was like in my early 30s, so that's right around the time where your skin's changing a bit, your makeup needs are changing a bit, and I just needed to like refresh my makeup. And I was like looking for a red lipstick, and I bought the red lipstick from Charlotte Tilbury, and I didn't like the shade on me as much as I would have hoped, because I didn't really understand like undertones back then as much as I do now. I'm not going to cover up my blemishes because I have some breakout. I'm not going to really worry about it. It's not going to ruin my day. Anyway, so what was I talking about? So then I got into drugstore, and I really was like, why am I spending $40 on a lipstick that I can't, because at the time we couldn't test anything because of the pandemic, obviously, and I'm sure I could have sent it back. I don't know what that would have looked like because it was a pandemic, so probably not actually. And so I wouldn't have known where to start back then anyway. So then I just went to the drugstore when I was bored, and I would just pick up items. And then I started playing around with that, and I think I just became more expansive. And then I think, like, in terms of trying to find really good drugstore products, and I was surprised because before that I was definitely a snob, and I only bought like products that you could get at Sephora or from Mary Kay. Like, I was very like, I'm not wearing that. But I had a friend, and she's always been a huge proponent of like anything beauty. If I have a question, she's pretty down to answer it. And so like, I always joke that she should be the one doing makeup videos on YouTube, but she's busy, and I just, yeah. Anyway, so that being said, a few years ago I started to get back into like actual top dollar makeup again, like going and spending the money on like luxury products while infusing my drugstore bag. And what am I trying to say here? I'm trying to say that back in the day, most people only wore drugstore, or they only wore like Sephora brand products. And now it's like acceptable to use both. Like, there was definitely a like stigma around using drugstore, mostly because the formatting of the makeup wouldn't lay as nicely. Like, if you got a eyeshadow palette from the drugstore, like, it never laid as nice as if you were buying something from like, I don't know, Too Faced. Speaking of, for this makeup look, so I just did my foundation and my concealer. Let me just make sure I'm blended. Indie Sleaze makeup is like gothic meets like mod, I would say. Like, there's definitely like very 60s 70s influence. Like, you wanted to look like you weren't trying, but you also wanted to express yourself. And here's kind of how I did that. So the smoky eye was actually a really big deal back then. If you were more into gothic grunge, you were definitely wearing like a lot more heavy eye makeup. A lot of creators would do like, a lot of people would do like really fun mod like makeup, which would be like the, you know, you'd have eyeliner here, it would connect here, and it would just be like really pretty, and it would like open up your eyes. I feel like those are the tutorials that I was really into back then on YouTube. But anyway, so this makeup look, we're gonna actually use this Dior Backstage palette, like all the smoky colors that I like and love. But also I find that as I've gotten older, I don't necessarily want to have the biggest smoky eye, so like this is more for like a 2025 approach to an indie sleaze makeup look. Definitely take my bronzer or brown and just like go all over. I forgot to do that, so we're gonna actually, this one doesn't really have a matte on here, we're gonna just like use this. It's this NYX, it's like that, so it'll be perfect. I'm just gonna actually rub it into my hands and like just apply it like this. Other thing I will say is that our makeup products back then were like, I would say we were a little, I don't know, were we more creative or less creative? I feel like we were more creative in some ways, less creative in others. We really went through all of your makeup. Now we're gonna go in with this, kind of also take that all over a lid. What was I gonna say? It was socially acceptable back in the early aughts and the mid aughts to absolutely wear like evening makeup during the day, because I think we really embraced that like day to night look. Like especially if you knew you were going out, you absolutely did your smoky eye during the day and then like maybe brought your palette to touch up later. Like you were not trying to like do your makeup twice. Whereas today I feel like people are way more conscious of like, this is a day makeup look, this is a night makeup look. Like back then we were just, I mean, we were on the go, we were busy, and we were trying to party. So that's kind of what the vibe was back then, honestly. It was like go, 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 go. You were at work, you were at school, you were trying to get to that party at 10. Like that's where I think indie sleaze came from. It was just like millennials were not trying to be, I'm gonna use this gray, too serious about anything. And yeah, so this is the gray. I'm just gonna like smoke out my cut crease a little bit. This is such a pretty palette because it is more granulated and already diffused, but also very buildable. Okay, back in the day you probably would have taken your white color and put it like up there. I can do that for this video. I feel like that's gonna scare me though. Yeah, I don't really love that. I'm gonna take the white and put it on the lower lid, and it kind of actually looks a little bit gold, which is interesting. It's a very pearlescent shade. Okay, and then I'm also gonna go back in with the gray. Now there is a black that I have not used. Definitely add some black to the corner here, and then like diffuse into. I feel like that could have been a mistake, but the cool thing about this is that you're allowed to make mistakes because it's supposed to be a little fucked up. If I remember correctly, you don't want it to be too perfect. We're gonna go in with some more of the white. So I think I'm done. Also, I think I'm just gonna like kind of clean up here a little bit. Like that is gonna drive me bananas. And obviously tone it down, just rub some of that kind of like out. So I would just kind of diffuse that with your fingers if it's a little too intense. Definitely. Next we're gonna go in with this. I'm gonna lay down a liner. This is actually a blue liner. It's Midnight Blue. I don't know where my black liner is. So it's Midnight Blue. I will be like the first to tell you, just kind of smudge it into your lash line and then do the waterline as well, which is gonna be really hard to do on camera, but I'm gonna go and do in here as well. I love to take black eyeshadow to my waterline or like underneath and smudge it out. This is shaping up to look exactly how I like it. We can move on to brows. Now, I have this, which I don't use it a ton, build a brow, but we'll use it today. I feel like that's good because it's got like this hair like applicator. Let's do that. Never concentrated on my eyebrows. Like, this is literally how I just did my makeup. So I'm not like giving you the full Monty. Doing my eyebrows like this back then is probably like the most accurate, like if it's gonna look natural. Okay, and then I do not use this gel. I hate this gel, but I love this. We're gonna use the brow Sessive. Just run that through. Next, I did not use bronzer back in the day. I don't know many people who did. I don't know if I paid attention or not. I mean, yeah, I think people did use bronzer, but to be honest, I don't think I did. So we're gonna use this Getting Butta because back then all we really had was powder, if I remember correctly. So I'm just gonna do that. Like indie Sleaze, if I had to like tell you what I think it is, it's like you want to look a little bit gothic, you want to look a little bit like you're not trying, and you don't shy away from your natural features, you accentuate them. So like I'm not going to be putting on anything, I'm allowing my natural shadows to just do what they're doing already. And that's kind of how we wore makeup back then. So the next thing that I forgot to do, we're gonna do mascara. I'm gonna use 2 mascaras because I feel like I always used 2 mascaras back then. We're gonna go with this Like a Boss first. This is from Essence. I like to blink through my mascara application. Okay. Also, I'm gonna level with you. I can't find my liquid liner, but if I were making this authentic, I would definitely have a winged liner for this look because I love to rock a wing liner. Next up is this Mega Length Mascara from Wet n Wild. This one does a great job when you apply the Like a Boss and then this after. It like separates the lashes more, which is really nice, but I'm also going to do my lower lashes because that's how I used to do it back then. So next we're going to use this red. I want to make it like a bitten look. I want to show you how I would achieve that, and then I'm going to do like my other stuff. So this is also from Palladio. This is Candy Apple. You're going to line your lip. You're going to push her in and up. You're gonna rub her up into the lip. See how there's just like a little bit of like flush? And then as you get like up to your Cupid's bow, you kind of want it to look a little bit like bitten. Now, I did not come up with this. I remember watching a Violette FR tutorial, so shout out to the OG for teaching all of us American girls how to do French style makeup and like what the terms were and everything. Okay, then we're gonna just like fill her in. Now, if you wanted to like achieve a modern bitten look, you would use like a lip stain. So like this one's from e.l.f. I don't know how I feel about it, but we're gonna like go with it. We did not have any product like this back in the day. We didn't. I'm trying to think. I don't think we did. If we did, please correct me. But I'm pretty sure we did not. And then you would want to like use this like a gloss. So I would use like maybe this. But for the sake of this video, I'm actually gonna do what I did in my last makeup look when I did this. Is I piled a red on top. So this is Hot Chili from Essence. And I think I just dabbed it on. This just adds a deeper color, because sometimes, especially like on me, I feel like my lips need to be as prominent on my face as my eyes. Like I can't just have a smoky eye. I don't think that works for me. I think I get washed out, and so I have to like bring my whole face back by adding in like deeper colors. So yeah, but we're not done yet. So this is where you would like use your hand, I guess, and like make it a little less perfect. I'm just blending it into my skin, I don't care. But then to top it off, we're gonna use this Glow Paradise from L'Oreal in Rose Mirage, and she's gonna go on top. Just adds like a nice shine and kind of makes it a little bit more pink. I just really like her like little take on like adding her to like most of my lipstick looks these days, because I think she packs a lot of punch. She adds dimension and depth. We're gonna mattify my face in my T-zone area. A little bit more blush actually. And add highlight, because that's something I actually did do. I feel like I'm just gonna go in the camera, go off of what the camera is showing me, because that looks like the kind of saturation I appreciate. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And then I'm gonna clean that up. Okay. And then what else would I have done back in the day? Oh yeah, highlight. We're gonna put on some highlight. I feel like back in the day we really just focused on the cheeks and then the bridge of the nose. I don't think we really did much else. This reminds me of my ballet makeup, honestly. That's funny. Yeah, this reminds me of my ballet makeup, absolutely, back when I was 12. This is the makeup look. This is how I would have done my makeup back then. If you haven't already, please like, comment, share, subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.